What's up, YouTube? Joe Catchpolia sitting on the couch, making some money, investing in fractional real estate online, as usual. Um, Today, I'm going to talk about a variety of things. The first one's going to just real quick thoughts on update that Mogul did on their portfolio tab. I'm going to talk about a new property that Saul's Lot recently listed, and then somebody had asked about this site Worthy. I'm going to share some thoughts on that real quick. It's like investing in bonds, um, sort of outside of what I'm usually talking about, but I just wanted to jump into that because it's very similar to some other things. So first, starting off with what did Mogul do? So they had mentioned this on their webinar earlier this week that they were going to update the portfolio tab. I think what they did is fantastic. Now I can look at my asset breakdown. A couple of things when let's see, can I click in it? Yeah, you can click into any of these and it will show you which assets are it's actually talking about. So you can see, I own pieces of I own pieces of 9 properties. I don't have to count. I could just look at this number. Like to do things the hard way, but only 3 show up in here. Why is that? Well, those other ones are ones that I've purchased shares in already, but that haven't closed or aren't operational yet. So they haven't paid out for a month yet. So this is going to lag a little bit, because everything that we buy on this platform is, it's not operating yet. We have to wait for closing, and then it's going to run for a month, and then we start getting paid, right? Which reminds me, please like and subscribe. There's links in the description to this website to all the places that I currently invest in fractional real estate online. Please do your own due diligence on these platforms and on any of the properties that you buy. Just because you see something in my portfolio or you see me buy something or talk about it doesn't mean it's the right investment for you. You really want to look into that on your own. I'm very much in experimentation mode in most of these platforms, although you'll hear me say lots of nice things about Mogul. They are quickly becoming one of my favorite platforms. It is still very new to me, and they're just very new overall. I think they keep putting out really good changes, and so I'm very optimistic about the future. But you can see I haven't put a ton of money on here yet. I'm trying to spread it out across several properties. I want to see how this goes. And they're just making it easier for me to do that, which is great. One of the things I really like that they're doing is they're responding to feedback very quickly. I know I brought up to them maybe a month or two ago that I'd like to see, a little bit more detail in here. They mentioned other people have said the same thing, and they just pumped out this update. And so, it's here all aggregated, but then under each property you have your overview, and this looks very much like it did before, but then you can click on your breakdown. And this it's fairly simple. It just has your gross rental income, operating expenses are all lumped together outside of your property taxes and then your debt service. In the future, I'd love it if they gave us even more detail, right? Like I think that the more transparency, the better. If you could dig into what's this OpEx line look like. I know for a lot of people, they're not going to be very interested in that. For me, I would. And one of the things that I've really learned from some of the other platforms is that sharing this info, although it can lead to some wasted time because a lot of people might then go and ask questions about it, but it can be very beneficial. One of the things that I've seen is sort of like crowdsourcing ideas on how you can save money on certain things, how you can generate revenue. So some of the other platforms where people are sharing all the details of what they're doing, you see a lot of cross-pollination of ideas. People that say, hey, I saw this going on in this other property, why can't we do that here? Or I'm doing this in my portfolio, why can't we do it? So sometimes I think sharing more detail, you kind of get access to everybody's mind who's looking at these things. But I do, on the flip side, I can imagine it could also lead to just a lot of questions that they don't necessarily want to spend the operational time to deal with. And so I'm sure there's a balance there, but I think this is super helpful. They also on the version that when the company shared a quick video about this in their email, they had some links that you could click on to memos. I think probably just none of the properties that I currently have had a memo. But if there was some reason that it underperformed for a month, I'm sure they'd add some detail in there, and that's the plan. But then when you look at my other ones, I think yeah, it's not operating yet, right? This is what it's going to look like until it's actually up and running. I think this is the other one that I have that is, yeah, so it's obviously showing ones that are zeros, but then over time. So, I don't know, that's just real quick. I'm really glad that they're doing it. I think that it is a huge step in the right direction. Hopefully, one of the things I had asked them for is some, to upload some of the appraisals and stuff, and I didn't actually go back today and look and see if they were up. They weren't up the other day, but I think the more they can just keep giving us, additional info about our properties that, we own pieces of these, the more that we can look at them as if we're just pure owners of these properties, the better it's going to be for everybody. Um, One of the things that I think that I'll end up having to use these for in the future, uh, that's come up, in the past when I've invested and been a part owner of deals, and then I'm going and buying real estate in real life, and I'm putting these properties on my balance sheet, right? If I'm filling out my personal financial statement, it's often the case. None of the ones that I have on here right now, probably wouldn't come up because my biggest investment on one of Mogul's properties is only $5,000. But let's say I start to make bigger investments on some of these, and it makes up a significant part of my net worth. When that goes on my personal financial statement as part of my loan app, I can imagine that I'll start getting questions from lenders about like, oh, well, how's that performing? I've had to do this in the past, just with, other investment properties that I've owned, other investments that I've owned. Sometimes they're looking for additional details. Obviously, the first step would be to give them our tax documents. But I think that in addition to that, sometimes they want to get, especially late in the year, will ask for additional details. And so having something like this where I can either screenshot or maybe in the future be able to download or print out for them, I'm sure at some point I'll just have to have it. Like it's something that other types of investments I've had to do all the time. So if you're somebody that gets loans out in the world, that's one of the things that you have to kind of think about when you start to tie up money in different places. Is sometimes when you're trying to take out a loan in the future, you just have a lot of questions about some of these little deals, and the more transparent the platform is, the better in that situation. Um, that's all I want to talk about that. For Saul's lot, they are. Oh, this isn't even the right property. Let me see. They clearly are working on this site. I don't know if this is the final iteration of it. So I bought a piece of this one. It is my third one. I just bought a little $25 piece. Honestly, I'm being reckless. Bought this $25 piece being completely reckless, and I'll show you why. I'm really just trying to support this platform at the moment. I like to use it and give them some feedback, and not really. I'm not very, I didn't buy a big chunk. I just bought one. I just wanted to see actually how it worked. Using, you can just use the invest now and buy now. And so I do still have to have a wallet attached for the NFT to go into. But you can just click on pay with fiat, which I think is funny. It's very crypto speak to call it that, right? And then I can go through and just have it link, and it can link to my credit card. So I think that's kind of interesting that you can, I think that I bought the last one like that too. I always love when you can buy real estate with a credit card. Living the dream. But I'll show you why I'm saying it's just being a little bit reckless is when I actually am looking at the details of the property. I did a little bit of due diligence, but one of the things that they don't have in here yet, did it pop up? Yeah, so let's see. Click on the show more details, and then how did I get to it? I think navigating the site is still not the easiest, right? Because there's definitely a page somewhere where there. Let me just close this. Where there's like a show. Click on this. Show more details. Did I already click that? Yeah, I did. And you get this part. Right here. This is where it is. I found this earlier, and then I forgot it again. So when you click on here, this is what gets you to the page. See what I'm saying? It's not the easiest, not the most intuitive yet. But then, you can click on the financials. You can see what it is. This was, it looked like it's very low. So, I did very modest due diligence. But like I said, I just bought a $25 piece of this. Just wanted to go through and see if it was any different using it now. Before I'd buy a big chunk, I'd want the documents tab to have documents in it that I could look at. Um, for all I know, I could have just made a donation, right? But so I'm definitely not saying go out and buy a piece of this just yet. But I just wanted to point out they do have this new one up. It looks like it came up just a couple of days ago. Um, Low leverage. It looks like it's a flip. When I had pulled it up on some third-party websites, it showed that it had just sold, which was a little confusing. Um, I don't know. I mean, maybe they borrowed the money and then they sold and closed. Like maybe it was during the escrow period. I'm really not sure. And because there's no documents, there's no real way for me to find out until that stuff's put up there. Anyway, I just thought it was interesting they have another one. So if you've watched any of my Sol's Lot videos, I think that their business model is like, I think it's really ingenious. I think there's a ton of room for it to, really be a huge tool for homeowners and people that need to sell their home. Um, and for their agents who are trying to help them, if they need some money to fix a couple of things before they sell, like that's the niche that this I think really will appeal to. But and I think that there's the opportunity to get really good returns as well because this is okay, a 13% discount off appraised value, but they go through somewhere they show you what your annualized returns if it gets paid back in 2 months, if it gets paid back in 4 months, if it gets paid back in 6 months, because these are intended to be short term. And so I think that there's the potential to make really solid returns. And at the same time, the homeowner that's trying to raise a little money to fix something to sell, they're in a spot, if they're in a spot where they can't get a loan, I think there's a lot of need for that product. And it might be, the best situation for, I think it has the potential to be a real win-win. So I'm hoping that this platform really gets going. I think over time it will be one that I treat a little bit more like I do ground floor, where I just buy a little piece of every single one and try to get some diversification. Because it is, they are very short-term holds. If I spent too much time digging into each one, uh, I'd either have to buy bigger chunks of each one than I probably want to, or and just not getting a very good return on time. So I don't know. I think over time that's what I'll use this for. But I've only got 3 little pieces of property so far. If I really start buying bigger chunks, like this one, I just didn't want to. I wanted to click through and see how the purchase thing was working right now, but I didn't want to put much money at all because, like I said, I didn't have the documents tab filled out yet. I should mention it to him though. And then again, completely unrelated, somebody brought up this platform today. This is their referral program. I clicked on here. I was trying to figure out, which you will not be seeing a referral link from me for this because it's not something that I'm investing in. So, you're buying bonds, or only $10 each, saying no fees or penalties. It's 7% APY. It reminds me very much of this compound real estate bonds platform that I had talked to you about before. I don't know if I did a quick video on this before, and when I dug into this one, it looks very much the same. So there is no way to dig into what you're actually investing in. So this isn't actually a fractional real estate site. Some of the bonds are lent. Some of the bonds are lent out to what they call to support community real estate projects, but then they also are for other loans as well. Help communities thrive, support real estate projects. I thought I saw that they had some other ones. Maybe they are just that page makes me think that it is really just real estate. But in any case, you can't do any due diligence on what those bonds are in. So you're not buying, which is that's what I like about fractional real estate is it's very easy for me to understand where my money's going, what I'm getting, why I expect to get a return. This is just okay. You're just getting paid 7%. Why? Where's that? Okay, we're invested in real estate that supports people. The communities. It all sounds really good, but I couldn't figure out anything from there. I pulled up a lot of the SEC documents. Um, I hate when this is where I have to go to, but so you look at this was last year. Was this last year's annual report? I think. I don't know. I looked at a couple years of annual reports. Most recent fiscal year, big loss. Prior fiscal year, big loss. Looked up the year before, and also losses. Let's see, is that? Yeah. So this must be actually the more recent one. Because this shows the year before. So that's not great, right? Like I'm very scared to put my money into something that's losing money. But so that's the annual report for this Worthy Financial Inc. But then I also, well, this is something that had come up where I don't even know if this means anything or not. But they basically had, this is the SEC saying they're declaring that this one securities offering statement was abandoned. So I don't even know what that is. I just left that up. But so this is for the Worthy Pure Capital is what I think. That's not the one either. This is one that was a subsidiary of them, and it's described as like the app that you could do it. But let's see, where is it? Is this where it is? Okay, it is. Yeah, and Worthy Pure Capital too. So both of these are for what I believe they're for is the bonds that you're actually buying pieces of. So these are the reports for those bonds, as far as I could tell. And like and this is why you can tell I'm super uncomfortable when I'm having to go through these compared to, just looking at the property itself and what I think the rents should be in an area and what it should appraise for, right? Like that's why I like investing in individual pieces of real estate because you can do that. And on this, I'm sure there are people that are better at reading financial statements than me that look at this and feel pretty good about it. But what I did see that I didn't love is, let's see, Worthy Capital 2 and the subsidiary, consolidated statements of operations and comprehensive loss or income. And so this was for the first 6 months ended, or the 6 months ended September 30th, 2024, this seemed to be the most recent one of these I could find. And so, okay, their loss per common share was $4,000. So, we saw that with this compound real estate bonds one too, right? I think when we dug into their filings that they had just been losing money. And so I understand that there are certain businesses that do that, like Amazon lost money for a long time as they grew. Uber did as well, right? Like, I mean, you see these companies doing that. That's not the kind of company that I want to have my investment dollars in, right? Like, I don't want to invest. And so I get that that's like what this entity is, like the Worthy Financial entity. But I believe that when you're getting, and this is again, I'm not really certain about this, but I think this Worthy Pure Capital, as far as I could understand, is actually the part that you're getting shares in, I think. And this again, you want to do your own due diligence on this. Clearly, I'm not an expert in reading SEC filings, going through these finances, but everything that I looked at didn't give me the comfort of the same kind of comfort level that I get when I say I'm looking at this home. I now am a 1% owner of this home, and this home pays X rent. Like that's why I really like the fractional real estate stuff, and the fractional loans are the same thing, right? Like on ground floor, I'm getting a piece of a mortgage. I know what the interest rate is on that mortgage. Like on this, like I just have no idea what's actually backing the bonds that are supposed to be paying me the 7% interest. And so there's no way for me to understand, is this a good risk adjusted return? And so for me, I'm just much more comfortable if I'm looking for a bond type return. I'm just going to invest in ground floor. And, those aren't bonds. Those are, they're LROs, but they're pieces of mortgages, basically. And I'm getting a much higher interest rate. The real downside, and I think what attracts people to a lot of these types of platforms is they can just pull their money out quick. So it's kind of like, um, you're comparing this to a high yield savings account, and it is a much better interest rate, right, than you get in a high yield savings account right now. But there's no way for me to figure out, is it a good risk adjusted return, right? Like, if, okay, I'm getting 7%, I'm getting 7%, I'm getting 7%, and then next year they close up shop and I get $0, and that wasn't worth it, right? Like, and so without me having a good sense of being able to do that. And it's not as if they're saying, like, well, these are, AAA rated corporate bonds we're investing in too, because like that's an option, right? Like, if I'm just looking for, you're probably not going to get a 7% return on those, right? Like, but if I'm looking for if I want to invest in bonds, I'm probably going to buy either, a bond fund, or actually invest directly in bonds somewhere. But again, whenever you're doing that, if they're bonds backed by companies, um, then you have that same due diligence problem of, figuring out what are the chances that company's not going to pay. Although you at least have rating agencies, but if you went through the 2008 financial crisis, that rating agencies, uh, it doesn't give me a lot of comfort when they rate it, when they rate a bond a certain way or not. Um, but so it's just another good example of, like, it sounds really good. Like, when I read through what they're doing, like, it feels good. It looks like, it makes sense to me. Like, oh, I'm investing money and it's being lent to a real estate project, and so that's how I'm making money. Like, it's a story that makes sense. Um, but that's all it is, right? Like, I just have no ability to actually dig into the details and do my due diligence on the where that actual return's coming from. So for me, it's just not something I'm going to invest in. Um, and then, whenever I do look up and it looks like they're losing money, well, that makes me even more worried. And I don't know. I think that's really all I have to say about that for today. One of the things I'm curious, if you watch a lot of my videos, probably once every couple of weeks, I do one of these where there's like two or three small topics, and I just squish them all together and do one longish video for that night. And I'm curious, like, would it be a better, viewer experience if I just gave you short videos of each, if I had just recorded three today, one for each of these topics, instead of just sitting here for 20 minutes straight talking, letting you soak it all in. Like, I'm assuming that most of you are investing across multiple sites and are interested in all of them, but I guess there's probably some people on my channel who are really just interested in one platform or another. Um, and I don't really have a good sense of where that divide is. So if you're somebody who is annoyed whenever I do this kind of format, and you're like, hey, I'd rather have three separate short videos. It's really not a whole lot of difference in the work that I'd have to do. I'd probably end up saying "What's up, YouTube" in an intro three times, and so that might actually waste more time than doing a whole thing. So I don't know. Uh, but that's just one of the things I'm curious about. I'm trying to make this provide as much value as I can when I'm putting these out, and really, as I've mentioned many times, really just trying to spark as much conversation and like connect with other people that are interested in doing this sort of thing as much as possible. Um, I think it's I'm really starting to get a lot of benefit out of that. I'm meeting a ton of you guys. I'm getting different ideas on investing and being able to share other things, other sites. I mean, people mention new sites to me all the time. It's been pretty rare that one is that I find one that I decide to invest in. But I think that having lots to compare is useful. I don't know if I said tickle the like button, but please do if you haven't done that. And I think that is everything for me for today. Pretty sure I did figure out how to do those end screen cards, so you should have like other videos you can click on if you're newer to the channel. And that is it. So until next time, I'm going to keep making mistakes so that you don't have to.